Welcome to the MFR Coaches podcast, where we talk about how you can create a six-figure MFR practice. I'm your host, Heather Hommel. Not only have I been practicing MFR for 11 years, I'm also a life and business coach, especially for MFR therapists. My goal is for you to understand how to get fully booked, how to talk to your clients, and how to make sure they understand what's possible for them with MFR treatment. I'm here to help you stop under-earning, overworking, and burning out. I'll lend support so you can create the MFR practice you've always wanted. Learn how you can do it too, even if you live in a tiny town, and even if you're just starting out, and even if you've ran your practice for years. Let's go. Welcome back to the MFR Coaches podcast. I'm Heather Hommel, and today I'm joined by my client, Cassandra Sohn, for a follow-up conversation that I think many of you are going to relate to. When we first talked, Cassandra was just 40 days into the Foundations program and already making huge mindset shifts. This time, we're diving into what it looks like to grow through the middle phase of business when you're not quite fully booked yet, but you're building the foundation to stay fully booked with ease. Our theme today is the quieter brain, stronger CEO. We'll talk about how mindset and systems work together to create sustainable growth, how belief, calm, and structure make the path to full booking smoother and more predictable. So if you've ever felt like you should be further along or wondered what to focus on while business is still building, this episode will help you see the real work that makes everything else easier later on. Cassandra, welcome back to the show. When we last talked, you were 40 days into Foundations and already, having mindset shifts, having wins. We want to talk about where you are now and how you would describe kind of this middle phase of business. Maybe you're not quite fully booked yet, but you're stronger and more confident than ever. What have you learned about the difference between getting fully booked fast and becoming the person who can stay fully booked with ease?
So I think about when we did that first interview, and like you said, I'd had some mind shifts and things were calmer in my brain, but really now I'm so much calmer. I don't nearly get bombarded with the amount of just constant thought. And not everything's a 5-alarm fire. So not every time something goes crazy, it's something to, like, I remember saying, oh, I'm freaking out. And then this was like halfway through the program, I think. And you said, I think that's just your default. I don't think you're really freaking out anymore. And I had to stop and pause. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not really freaking out. It's just something I got used to saying because it's what it always felt like. But it doesn't feel like that anymore.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the value of not feeling freaked out is?
Oh, my goodness. So not feeling freaked out when I had this just happened, last week, 2 weeks ago, one of the two, something like that. So I had a week of 12 clients. I was super excited. I was very close to fully booked. Like that week, due to some time off or whatever, I think it was like 14 or 15 was my number. So I was like, oh, I just have 3 more. And then it was like coaching call Tuesday. And at 8:30, which is the time it is when we have coaching call where I am, I got a text message, late cancel of somebody that was doing an immersive. So my first 2 appointments that started at 10 and 11, she late canceled due to an emergency. And then literally like 9:15 after the coaching call, I got a text from another business owner that they were like, we got a cancellation from this person that's not a client of ours. Maybe they're yours. And so I was like, okay. And I called them, left messages, emailed, didn't hear anything back. You and I posted it up on Facebook. You're like, maybe you should just show up just to make sure. They didn't show up. I was there. They didn't show up. And then I had that same day, 2 more clients within my policy of cancellations or rescheduling, whatever. They needed to move their appointments like to the next week. And then at the end of the week, that client at the beginning of the week who hadn't shown up 57 minutes before her appointment was supposed to start, she had her partner call me and say that she was sleeping and wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, my 12 appointment week went to 6 appointments. And I was just like, but it's okay. Like it was okay. I could just make the decisions I needed to make and move on.
Yeah. Would you share like what some of those decisions were that you needed to make and needed to be able to make kind of quickly?
I think the big one was I have a 24-hour cancellation policy. And it's very clearly stated. It's clearly stated when you book. It's clearly stated in my terms and conditions. It's not hidden anywhere. And I restate it multiple times, even when they come in verbally, so that they know. And with the emergency cancellation, I get it. And I had no problem saying, you know what? Yeah. And we agreed, she and I agreed, both of us agreed, I would let the one appointment go and she would be responsible for the second one. No problem there. With the other one, I don't like to charge people if I haven't communicated with them verbally again. Hey, you missed this appointment. I didn't end up charging her for either appointment.
Okay.
However, I just banned her from booking online anymore. So if she wants to come back to me, because of the way the policy states, she has to contact me directly, and then she would have to prepay for all of her future appointments.
Yeah. I mean, because there's kind of a pattern, a behavior there.
And honestly, because of that, I don't have a problem if she never contacts me again because I don't need clients like that.
Yeah.
Somebody that wants to come in and get worked on. And it's not so much the policy, it's more the respect of, I respect your time, you respect my time. And if that's not possible, then that's okay. I live in an area that has 3.2 million people. I'm okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that mindset, right? Because I think you can live in an area with 3.2 million people and think that no one is going to come to you as well, right? So it's definitely a mindset choice, a belief that you've created that no one client is going to make or break your business and we're not going to cater to people that don't follow the policy. And it's not like your policy is so rigid that you're just deciding this isn't a best fit client. It's like, okay, I gave this person two opportunities to show up for their appointment and they didn't come.
Exactly.
And if they decide to come in the future, this is how I will work with them if and when that happens. So I think kudos to you because a calm nervous system and one that like is responsive instead of reactive is always going to be able to provide better client care for your clients, one, and better care of yourself too. Because honestly, like it never feels good to have clients late cancel, no show, all of those things. Like it feels terrible because you've put in time and work to get the client in there. Your expectation level for the day is a certain level, and then the plans change. So I love how you have really gotten clear on how to handle these things and also that you're double checking your policy. You know, at some point, maybe you want a 48-hour policy or maybe you want a 36-hour policy or whatever it is. But I think it's good to test the waters with how well this policy works and know that you're flexible and you can change it as you need to.
And honestly, putting that policy in, like the policies have been a huge, huge just change. I think that more than anything else, those
Mhm.
systems in place. So what I've noticed with just that policy alone is I don't have the late cancels or the no shows or the late shows or the new clients that schedule and then never bother to appear because I have here's the policy and also that first appointment you have to prepay for. The other ones are card on file, but that first one you prepay for. And if you don't show, you lose it. I mean, it's booked.
Yeah. That is what it is. Yep. And I think that's a great fail safe too, is like always charge for that initial appointment and always get the payment information because people just behave better when they're on the hook for something. Yeah, that's good.
And quite frankly, I can't tell you how many people before I put those policies in place, I had issues with doing that.
Yeah, it's a common thing, right? People are, especially like in today's world with online booking, and so many people don't have policies. So you could go and just try to schedule with the first 10 people you see what appointment you can get, and then it's like Russian roulette. You're like, I'm going to go with this one, but then forget the other nine that you scheduled and cancel them within the policy. I mean, if there's no skin in the game, you don't really care.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, let's kind of talk about self belief as one of the foundations in the program. What does self belief look like for you now compared to when we first talked?
I have pondered on this one a lot because this one I think has really been the most eye-opening. So when I look at when we first talked and even before I started foundations, I looked at myself as, oh, I'm just a small business owner. I'm not really that important. I'm just getting the cast offs of what people really can't do anything with. They're not really I get a lot of referrals from other MFR therapists.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I do some things that most of the other therapists in this area just don't do.
Yeah.
So I would always think, well, they're their client, so they want me to do this when they come in. So I'm going to do what this therapist told me to do for this client. And they're not really my client because I'm going to send them back. Like there's a lot of that mindset. But really, it was in myself that I didn't respect myself or I didn't have belief in myself and what I was selling because I would think, oh, I'm not really that important. I'm just a small business owner. I'm not really that big of a deal. Like I had a lot of really like derogatory thoughts towards myself and it's really hard to sell something that's amazing. Myofascial release is amazing. It's hard to sell that when you think I'm not a very good vessel
Mm.
of sharing.
And was that even like obvious to you that that's how you were thinking about yourself? What made that obvious, I guess, is the question.
So really like thinking about this interview and like, I mean, I had thoughts of it, but when I really, really was thinking about doing this interview we're doing right now, and I really sat down and looked at it and I was like, I really took some time to really ponder on it yesterday when I was thinking about it. I was like, wow, because, my husband's the biggest supporter of what I do. He's like, hey, let's do this. I'm like, oh, we can't possibly do that. Like I had a client that came in and the work that I did on her was so amazing. She's like, I have to tell my doctor because this was the last ditch idea that they had. And I just happen to remember that you do this. This is how she contacted me. I happen to remember that you do this. She's a friend of mine. And she's like, she was so excited. She's like, I want to give your business cards to my doctor. I'm like, okay, well, how many do you want? She goes, I want 50.
Wow.
Right. She literally that day, like, took them with her with a letter to her doctor and said, hey, this has been so amazing for me. So I had a client schedule last week, new client, and one that's coming in a couple weeks. And they both came in from doctors I've never heard of. I think, though, one is the doctor of my friend, and the other one shares an office with her because they both had my cards. And they both said the same thing. They're both like, hey, nothing's working. What else do you have?
Yeah.
And they gave me that. And my husband was like, hey, you should be going to all the doctors. You should be, just laying it out there. And I'm like, but I've told my doctor and my medical group is never going to refer me out beyond what my medical group is. They're never going to send me to somebody that's not within their system. Like that was my thing. So I hesitated to do that. And he's like, and it was really frustrating for him. But, now that I've seen this doctor that my client was so excited about, and she sent me two people within, I don't know, when did she drop that off? Like a month ago? I've seen two people now.
That's great. And you never know really, like every time I go to the doctor, I always talk about what I do and who you all help because I want them to hear it over and over and over again. And the more I go, the more they ask me questions about it. They're like, "Oh yeah, remind me what you do and who those people help." And that's part of making it mainstream, right? Is just continuing to talk about it, even if they may never use it. It's just like putting it out there into the world as an option.
Yeah. And I mean, and now in my mindset, like I can see, I'm like, oh, well, there's a whole slew of OBGYNs. There's a whole slew of oncologists. There's a whole slew of cosmetic surgeons. The list just goes on of the world is my oyster, right?
Yes.
So really noticing in myself now that I look at myself and I'm like, you know what? My husband and I calculated this out. I've spent more than $100,000 on education for myofascial release. Like I am an expert. I mean, seriously, for the training and education. And so now I can go out and say, you know what? I might not be a doctor, but I'm an expert in what I'm doing. And John says all the time, this is the future of healthcare. And I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that. So yeah, so that huge mind shift. I mean, I think the last of it really, yesterday really shifted in, but I could see parts of it where I was super hesitant. And now I'm like, why am I waiting?
I
Why did it
love
wait
that.
so long?
We all need to ask ourselves that question, like, what are we waiting for? And who do we need to tell us that we're doing a good job? Like it really has to come from inside. And I think however it takes you to get to that realization so that you can say it to yourself, like, I am the expert. I am the specialist in this. I am highly specialized and educated. One of the ways is like to go and add up how much time and how much money and how much effort you've put into mastering this profession and mastering this modality and continuing to be a beginner, right? Which is part of mastery, which is continuing to take seminars and be up on the latest research and knowing what you're doing. So I love that. If adding it up and being like, okay, I spent 100K on this, like, I guess that's good enough to call myself an expert, right? Like, that's good. It's fascinating.
When you look at how that ripple spreads out, then all of a sudden where people are referring, whether it's other MFR therapists or whether it's other people that are referring me, it's like, yeah, they're their clients, but they're my clients too. So I can make the decision of what I see instead of based on what it is that they want me to do for them.
Right.
And also better communication with the client themselves as to what they're looking for.
Right. And your client, like that, if they are in your office and they are paying you, they are your client. It kind of doesn't matter where they came from. Obviously, like collaboration and all of that is great, but when they're in your care, you become in charge of that care for that day, for that package, for whatever, however the length of time it is that they're there. And it's not true that you have to refer them back.
Right. In my mind, though, in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm going to respect the fact that they're not really my client. They're just being lent out to me for a minute. Like that was what I was thinking early on.
Yeah.
So that's a big shift.
So interesting, because we always make these decisions based on like what is in the best interest of the client, and maybe referring them back isn't in the best interest of them, right? And maybe it is. Like, I think you're going to make that decision on a case by case basis and do what is best for the client always. So I wouldn't worry about that so much.
Right.
That's great. Okay, let's talk a little bit about how do you keep believing in your goal when sometimes the numbers aren't always there yet? Do you kind of want to talk about that?
Yeah. So I haven't been fully booked yet, but I've been so close. And
Mm-hmm.
I had 10 weeks, about halfway through the program, where I was very close. I was within maybe 4 appointments, something like that. I was very close. So I doubled what I started with, and I was very close to fully booked. And then I had just that huge drop. I mean, one week it was like 2 appointments. I don't even think I made any money that week.
Yeah.
And I really had to look at it because you were like, you stopped selling MFR. And I was like, but I don't feel like I'm doing anything different. Like that was a hard concept for me to wrap my brain around. And so I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to continue to go out and do something. And then, when we talked later, you were like, when we have the interview, just keep selling really hard. We do this interview in October, just keep selling. And I was like, okay. And then all of a sudden it started to go back up again. And I was so glad you started doing summaries after the coaching calls, which, oh my goodness, super helpful,
Yay.
because I didn't have to like perseverate on what does this really mean? You like laid it out. You're like, okay. So a couple of weeks ago, we were on the coaching call and you were coaching someone, and you asked them, you said, well, how many offers have you really made? And you defined exactly what an offer was. And I remember this watching, and they said, well, when you put it that way, and that was my answer too. Well, gosh, when she puts it that way,
Yeah, it's
I guess I
zero.
really haven't made anything.
Yeah.
And then you laid out, like you defined when you posted up the summary of that call, here is what an offer is. And now go out and make 10. And I was like, okay. So now it's just right there and I can just go out and make 10. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, like looking back, like knowing that information now, and then looking back at when you went from like a 10-week sprint of being very close to fully booked to having a complete drop off in your numbers, can you kind of see where you stopped selling then?
I did. And part of this is a mind shift too. And we had this conversation when I first went to online booking. Like you were like prodding, you're like, just get it up there, just get it up there. And you're like, what's the package number? And I'm like, I don't plan on selling packages. You're like, okay, well, whatever. It's all a one off. Because in my mind, I hadn't equated yet the idea of a package. It wasn't just to help them have a discount in appointments. It was actually to move them forward in getting better.
Yes.
And so most of my clients up to that point, I mean, I did have some that I still have that were, they'd come in once a month or 3 times a year or, every week, whatever. I had a handful, very small handful of those clients, but everybody else came to me for an acute problem referred by somebody else. I worked on that acute problem and then sent them on their way. Is kind of how that worked.
Yeah.
So I didn't connect, oh, hey, when we sell a package, it's really to let's look at you as a whole person, treat yes what you're coming in for, and then continue to work on you so that you're healthy. But once I could shift that, which let me tell you is very recent. So once I could shift that, then it made it so much easier. I just had a client come in. She came in for a first appointment. I had asked her, what's your goal? And she told me, I was like, okay, so we'll work on it. And then I talked to her. I said, and I told her at the beginning, I said, based on your goal and what I assess while I'm working on you, I will give you a treatment plan and we'll go from there, what you want to do. And she's like, okay. So I busted out the where am I pyramid and gave it to her and she could identify where she was. And then I said, okay, based on what you're telling me, and I repeated back to make sure that, yes, that was right. I said, this is the treatment plan. So I'm selling a package and just so happens it's on sale this month. And she purchased one right there. We scheduled all 6 of the appointments. And I told her then, I said, we will reassess at appointment number 4 and see where you're at. So she knew where we were going. I knew where we were going, and we were both going there together.
Yeah. It's a wonder what that does, right? When you're really clear on why a package. And I think that there's a lot of people that are resistant to many of the things I say. Like people are resistant until they're not, right? So it's really also helpful for me to be able to say things 10 different ways for the 100 different brains or 200 different brains that are in the program so that it lands faster and then you can make these changes faster. But I also think there's so many layers to who we need to be, like who we are and where we need to be as business owners for these things to land, right? The first layer is like really understanding what you want and getting clear on your numbers and all of that stuff, then getting acclimated to being able to charge the rate that you need to charge, and then really settling in on how you help your clients best with treatment plans and packages and all of those things. So it's a lot of moving things that you're kind of doing all at once, but also getting more expert at it as you go. So I think you've just done a great job of having big goals and then also being uncomfortable by not getting there like as fast as you want to go, but also being like, okay, maybe I'm not there yet, but it doesn't mean that I'm not going to get there.
Right.
Because the mistake I see some people make is they have a big goal, they don't get there on the first try, so they quit, or they do a lot of stop starting. And I think that's normal for everybody to have a little bit of stop start, but the less stop starting we can do, the better. So, like this 10-week thing, and then we had kind of like an abrupt halt. And I said something like, we can pinpoint the moment in time when you stopped selling, which I think is very offensive to some people because, like, your brain is like, no, I'm not doing anything different. It's like there was a moment in time where you quit believing that this was going to work out for you or that you quit believing in your client. Like, there's all the different tests we can do to figure out where it was. So, I love that you are always so willing to take the coaching and figure out what it means exactly for you and your business and then figure it out and then keep going. So, kudos to you for that. What advice would you give to a therapist who thinks that they need a full schedule before they can feel successful? Like, what are you doing to feel successful along this journey?
Because I will say I haven't been fully booked throughout
Right.
yet. I'm close. I've had days in weeks that were fully booked. So I really had to ponder on this one a lot too. I would say just keep working at it. It'll come. I believe that yes, I will get there.
But do you already feel successful? Like, do you?
I do. And the reason that I feel successful is because when I first started doing thought dumps, like I would run out of page before I ran out of 5 minutes. And I had this constant chaotic bombardment of just derogatory thoughts. And they would be all over the page. And you've said on more than one occasion, cross out what isn't true. And I would look at it and I would have a hard time crossing anything out because my brain literally believed that I wasn't good enough, that I couldn't do it. I'm especially glad we're doing that thought dump challenge, which has been,
Yeah.
it's great. So now I run out of 5 minutes before I run out of page. Like I'm like, oh,
Wow, that's a difference, right? Like, your brain is already less abusive to you.
exactly. So I'm like, sometimes I have to wait longer to get into the deeper thoughts. But I do feel successful now in that, like I was saying earlier, when that whole week of like I had 12 and then all of a sudden I had 6, like that could have been, I mean, early on in the program, I would have been like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. But I was like, you know what? It's okay. I have policies in place. Just make the decision, move on, let it go, and just, work on the next thing. So I do feel successful because I am seeing the growth. I did it once and I'm seeing it again.
Mm-hmm. And also, because of the changes you've made, you're making more money than before you were in the program. Am I right? I'm just going to assume that you are.
I am.
Yeah. So, since you started the program in November of 2024, we're recording this October 15th, 2025, you've reported $66,130 of revenue.
Right.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Is that more than you've made in past years?
Actually, the year of 2020, I made more than because I remained open during COVID.
Okay.
And people would contact me and they'd say, I can't get into my doctor. I can't get into the PT. Is there anything you can do? And so I worked on a ton of people.
Well, and we're also only in October. So we have the whole rest of October, November, and December. So 2.5 months left.
Exactly. So yeah, when I look at where I'll be, yeah, it'll be more than what I've
Okay.
done in the past.
Even in 2020.
Probably when I calculate that, I'll look at it. When I calculate it, it'll probably be more. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. That's is why I think it's so fun to touch the numbers and really get factual about it by actually looking at it instead of guessing at the numbers because you can feel like the fully booked is the goal or whatever, but then when you look back at the numbers like as a touch point to be like, what, I'm actually doing okay even not fully booked because I've set myself up to make plenty of money. Now, of course, the goal, of course, I bet you would like it to be six figures, right?
But look at this though. We have to also look at the fact that I raised my rate
Yeah.
January 1. So prior to that, before January 1 to 2 years prior to that, I was at 165. I raised my rate to 225. Prior to that, so prior to, let's see, 2024, 2023. So prior to 2023, my rate was $150.
Yeah.
So when you calculate how much I was working to make that, it's a big difference. So yeah, when you start looking at that, comparing that when you look at the data, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Get to work less, make more money. Awesome. And then the other thing is, what's so interesting is the volume that you had in order to make the same amount of money in 2020 or a little bit more in 2020. What do you think you were thinking about yourself as a practitioner or about your business that was creating that much volume of people? Because your price really wasn't that low. I wouldn't say it was that low because a lot of people are starting off like nowadays at like, I feel like 150 is the new $85, honestly.
Right. I mean, at the time I was one of the lowest MFR therapists in the area, and there's several of us.
Mhm.
It's a great community here in San Diego County. But I think too, like at that time, because I was hearing desperation from people, so I was like, yes, I'm here, yes, I'm here, yes, I'm here. And
I wonder if you could implement some of that yes, I'm here energy into this current practice.
yeah, because now I have the tools of, when I look at then, I was like, outside of saying, yes, I'm here, and I'm open, like, what was I doing? I don't know, but I can look at,
But
you've
that was working.
a ton of tools though, too, where I can say, I can repeat this and create this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm here and I have boundaries. Yes, I'm here and I have online booking. Yes, I'm here and this is my rate. Do you know what I mean?
Ah, hmm.
And I only see this many people, whereas before it was probably like, I'll just see as many as I can because we're going to scoop all this up before it goes away.
I'll see them whenever and wherever and whatever. That's been another thing, like changing policies and really, really adhering to what the policy is. Like I know I put on my weekly report a couple weeks ago about that incident I had in my office where,
Yeah.
it was a big horror, and I dealt with it the best I could at the time. But I was like, hey, why? And I was actually talking with Gina Malloy about it. And I told her, I was like, why in the world did I schedule a client outside of times I never work on days I don't work either? Like, what was I
Yeah.
thinking? That was just a recipe in the very beginning for just disaster.
Well, I think we do the best we can with what we know at the time. And we're trying to be helpful, right? And there's also like old patterns that just feel natural to fall back into. So this is one that you tested the waters with that you're probably not going to do again.
It felt so gross. I mean, I really do wish I could have been able to help that person. There were just some other things going on that were beyond what I could do to help them.
Yeah.
So hopefully they're able to get the help that they need. But just the situation just felt really gross outside of that whole thing. Because my mind was like, why do you have a schedule if you literally scheduled this person so late at night that you never work and you don't come in ever on Saturdays after this time if you're going to come in on a Saturday? Why did you do this? And I was like, no, I don't know.
I think you did it because it was people pleasing.
It was absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think it's just like so good to take the radical responsibility around that and just be like, yeah, I decided to do this because I was people pleasing. Now I know what that feels like in my body. Like I have a remembrance of that in my body. I'm not going to do that again. Like my schedule is my schedule. And it really is our work to remind ourselves that our schedule is our schedule, even when we don't hit fully booked, even when we feel scarce and we have scarcity come up, but being able to say like, oh, I'm feeling scarcity in my body, which maybe that was what actually triggered you saying yes to that appointment was like the need for the money because maybe you didn't go back and look at your facts and be like, oh, I'm actually like making plenty of money, and when I say plenty of money, it's like when we've had years pass or months pass where the dollar amount was a lot lower, or we were working twice the volume to make nearly the same amount of money. It's like, what were we doing then to get by that we're not doing now?
Right.
Like, why is it so significant right now for this to happen? So I think it's always important to know the numbers for those reasons. So, speaking of systems, let's kind of like talk about how belief and systems work together. When you believe in your ability to create clients or to get fully booked, how does that change the way you organize your time or make decisions? This is kind of a great question, follow up to this example that you just shared.
Yeah. So if you look at that, even if you run that both directions, so if you run it as an equation, one direction or the other direction, everything runs smoother. So like I made a lot of policy changes when I started the program. And at first I was just like taking it on faith that it would work because I had a hard time because I was, trying to people please and be there all the time, whatever. So I made all these policy changes, and so one of the really simple changes I made was I went from 15 minutes between clients to a half hour. And at first I thought, oh my gosh, that's so long.
Mhm.
But then I realized as I was going about that, like I wasn't in a rush. I wasn't overwhelmed. I wasn't trying to change everything. I wasn't hungry. I didn't need to use the water, like because I had time to change the linens, have the conversation with the person that, was leaving, change the linens. I could run to the washroom if I needed it. I could eat without, shoveling and chewing while I was answering the door. So really, it created time and space for myself so that when the person came in, I could give them all of my attention.
Yeah, that's really nice.
I was able to center more. And then I think too, during that time where I hit that, where you're like, you stopped selling and you made a comment to me, you were like, you know what, you need to write down the entirety of the client interaction and really evaluate that. And you're like, keep client notes because that's really going to help you sell my flash release. And so what I started doing, and I've been doing it for sure all the time for the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks probably, but I started, for every client, I'd write evaluation at the top of the page and then what are your goals? Or what is your goal? And then I ask them that when I go in to start that appointment with them. And really, truly, that helped as well because I was feeling at the end, because you're like, you're not selling. You stop, so I was like, where did I stop selling? And you said the evaluation would help you find that out.
Yeah.
And what I found out, because I wasn't clear, this was another word you used, was clear, be clear on what it is that they want. And so because I wasn't clear at the end of the appointment, they would be frustrated because they're like, I didn't get what I want. And I would be kind of like, something wasn't right. And so we weren't in sync. So now because I can ask them, even if they can't verbalize exactly what they're looking for, at least it gives me an idea. So then when they're at the end of the appointment, we can have that discussion of, okay, where are we at? And so now that we're both very clear, then I can really just retain more, then they're more likely, I'm going to tell my friend about you, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm just curious, what is the weirdest policy suggestion that I gave you that you implemented and was like, that's weird, but I'm going to try it anyway? Or maybe not weird, but like the one that made you the most uncomfortable.
I had a really hard time with the comment that you were like, you stopped selling
Oh, okay.
because I couldn't see
Yeah.
where I stopped selling.
So you were like kind of offended by that or just like triggered?
I was triggered. I don't know that I
Yeah.
was necessarily offended, but I was triggered because I couldn't see, and you were very clear. You didn't hesitate. You were like, you stopped selling. You didn't understand what they wanted, and you stopped selling. I was like, because I couldn't see it, I was like, but
I know.
no. And, I had to really like, how do I do that? And it took a while to be able to see, like, through doing repetition, be able to go, oh, okay, I understand now. So then now I'm not triggered by it because I'm like, no, okay, now I understand.
Yeah. Well, now you know whenever you have like a drop off, you will be able to
Mhm.
if you are doing evaluations pretty regularly, you'll be able to pinpoint it super fast and correct it because the evaluations are not, they're for you, not against you. And I think this is like one of those nuances where I think we just all have these asshole brains where everything we're doing, where we're kind of revealing something around us, we use it against ourselves instead of for us. Like, oh, of course I did that. Of course I didn't see that. Or of course I got like nervous here and then I said this instead of this. That's okay. I'll do it differently next time. But instead we're like, if I find out that I did something wrong, I'm going to be so humiliated. I'm going to feel humiliated and I'm not going to want to correct it. Like, I don't know what it is that happens, but I know I don't like to be wrong. That's why whenever you guys post in the Facebook group, you're like, Heather, you were right. I'm always like, I like being right. But
Honestly, with evaluations, I've never once looked at them as derogatory to myself. And it's
good.
just my brain has filled me with a bunch of just wrong information of just,
Yes, that's the great attitude to have towards it. Yeah.
I've never, ever, ever in all of doing evaluations looked at it and been like, gosh, I messed up so bad. I'm such a horrible person. And why am I even trying?
Yeah.
Ever.
Good.
I have always looked at them and said, okay, here it is. Like that I can look at and say, this is just a tool that we use to get.
Mm-hmm. I'm always fascinated by mine. I'm always like, oh, like I always find out so much information that I can use for me. And then I can like instantly choose to stop doing it the way that's not working.
Right. And I mean, I think the harder thing for me is to have it pointed out from somebody else where somebody else can hear it.
Oh, yeah, in front of 50 people or whatever.
I mean, even though I really, really try, I really made it a goal to try like once a month to get coached. Even like yesterday when we were doing coaching, like I didn't have something on the top of my mind, but I just thought, it just adds a little extra energy into the system.
Yeah.
And immediately you were like, okay, well, what is that? So that we could talk about, hey, you have a goal to sell this many packages. Who do you have and how are you going to do it? And I'm like, oh, okay. So now I have a plan. Like today I can sit down and work with Chat GPT for some of the wording because I get vapor locked when I get started, but once it's going, it works. So then I can get that out there and say, okay, here it is. And then, I can send out to the referrals, hey, I have this going on, whatever. So now I have a clear plan that I can work with.
I love that. That's so good. Okay. Let's like kind of normalize the journey for everyone that's listening that maybe they're thinking about coming to coaching or they're not, they have an MFR business. We've talked kind of like about normalizing all of the stages of business, but how are you going forward defining progress for yourself, like right now and for the future?
I think one thing that I'm looking at, this is my bachelor's degree in managerial accounting and business, right?
Yeah.
Is I'm looking at the logistics. When you look at logistics, you look at like as things go through kind of, from one person to the next, where's it getting bottled up, right? So looking at myself and where are things getting bottled up? So what I really like right now is that it's moving. My business is moving and I can work within it as it's moving. Before I was throwing myself, trying to throw up against it. I was getting kind of bounced out, I guess. I'm a real
Yeah.
visual person in that way. So now I can work comfortably within it, just adding energy to the system, keep it moving forward. And
I love that.
so it's like, where am I maybe getting bottled up? So, am I getting bottled up? So an example would be right now I'm kind of bottled up in some thoughts that are taking time and energy that I could be using in other things. So if I look at that thought, is it something that I can change or alter so that it will help the rest of the system run smoother? Or is it something that I need to do some more thought work on and just let go?
So good.
So right now it's sleep. I have a hard time sleeping and my husband gets up at 5:15, so I'm awake with him in the morning and then he heads off at 5:30. So it's like if I haven't made it to bed early the night before, I want to go back to bed, which means that I don't want to have to get up and do anything until I have to go out the door to go work on clients at like 10 o'clock, right? But I have dogs at home. I have other things that that need to happen, just in life. So it's like, okay, well, what am I going to do with this? Because I've been perseverating on this for weeks now. So it's like, okay, you need to get to bed earlier than like midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning to like function. You can't function on that little sleep.
Yeah.
But have I made it to bed by like 9 o'clock yet? I haven't. I'm trying.
But even like 10 or 11 would be better, right?
Right? Even 10
Yeah.
or 11 would be better. So then it's a matter of, okay, well, what am I trying to change in my day? Because I really don't have the space allotted in that time. If I had the space in our house to do the things that I would do in the morning, like the thought dump and admin stuff and whatever, I could do that at night, no problem, in that time that I knew I was going to be up anyway. So now it's like really, okay, so how do I need to adjust my schedule in order to be done with whatever I'm doing so that literally, truly, I can get in bed before him because if he goes to bed before I do, I'm just going to whatever. So if I get in bed before him, then it's like I'm in bed and then he gets in bed and then I just go to sleep. It's a weird thing, but that has been holding up a lot of continuity.
Yeah. I think this is like a good thing to bring up because I have this issue too, where like if my husband goes to bed before me, I'm probably not going to fall asleep till 2 a.m. because he snores and he's just like, I get in bed and then I'm like, ugh.
Right.
So it's a sleep hygiene thing though, right? And then you get in the cycle of like, okay, I didn't go to bed till 2. So now I can't get up before 8 or 9 or 10 even. And then like I feel tired all day, all of the things. So yeah, it's like really deciding what makes your day ideal and how do you want to experience it, and then putting all those things in place so that you experience it that way. It takes some efforting, which is annoying. I'd like it to just be easy.
Exactly.
And it does make it easier, right, when we hold ourselves accountable to that. I think just having the awareness around like this is something I want to change, and like just aiming for 50% better or 30% better is kind of a good goal.
Yeah. So last night I made it to bed right before 12, which I was pretty proud of myself because it's been
Yeah.
2 in the morning. So I don't necessarily need to be, doing the dishes at 6 and then doing my thought dump at, 6:30. I do need to be taking the dogs out at 7 so they can go to the dog park and run around like fools. So they're tired. But if I can just shift it a little bit, it'll make things easier because I am having a hard time getting the admin work done in the way that my schedule is currently set up.
Okay. As we wrap up, what are you most proud of since joining Foundations?
I honestly think it's the change in myself. Like when I look at where I was and coming out of that, and I'm still a change in process, right? I'm still working through that. But I think the change in myself, to really look at myself and say, yeah, I am the expert in the room. Yes, I can do hard things. Yes, I can go out and teach, or I can go out and sell or whatever. I think really that change where I'm not berating myself all the time that I'm not enough. I'm not good enough.
Mhm.
I can't do it. Other people can be successful, but not me. Because I look at myself and I'm like, I can be. And it really is, yes, it's going to take some effort and energy on my part, but I can be successful. I can do those things. I'm not the whatever I thought I was for so long.
Yeah, which is so helpful to have that quieter mind now, like being able to be like the boss of your brain instead of your brain bossing you around. And I also think it's the best effort and energy that you'll ever spend is creating these changes so that your brain is no longer the biggest asshole in your life, right? Like leave that for other people.
Right.
Don't be the biggest asshole in your own life, right? To yourself.
And like you asked me the question, you asked the question, like, finish the sentence, becoming the CEO of my business means. And I
Yeah.
really look back over in time and foundations where my intent when I started is different than what now and the possibility. And so like when I finish that sentence, being the CEO of my business means I am free to act and not be acted upon. I'm free to create what I want outside of what other people think that I should have or what I think other people think I should have.
Yeah.
That I can create this, you called it an empire at one point. I can create it. I'm not looking at it anymore as like working for somebody else where I just get a paycheck, where it's all very like, this is as far as I can go because there's so much more out there. So it's exciting.
It is. So, as we wrap up, I know that you just had something that you wanted to celebrate. So, do you want to tell us about the most recent week you had and what happened?
After that crazy week where I had like half of my clients just, or half of my appointments, just whatever, the following week, I had the biggest week that I've had in years, especially, even in the foundations program where I was able to sell 3 packages and I made $4,125,
That's amazing.
which is even more than I think I've made in some months before. So yeah, it's super exciting.
Yeah. And I just love the juxtaposition of that, of like going from like a week where it just seemed like a nightmare spiral into hell. And then the next week, you're like, and now I've had the biggest week ever. So business is not linear. And I think we all need to remember that and know that everything averages out or goes beyond just averaging out when we allow for that space and we don't spin out and we kind of like lean into the tools and the support. And I think this also normalizes like having paid support. What do you think would have happened that week where everything fell off if you didn't have this paid support or didn't have the tools that you have access to?
Oh, it would have been like any other week where it all fell off. And I did freak out, like went to the default of, I would have been like, oh my gosh, I can't pay my bills. I literally would have asked the neighbor across the street, like I did last year, hey, can I do gardening for this much money in your yard so I can make up what I'm short? I did that last year. Like
Yeah.
early on in 2024, I did it.
Have you needed to do that at all this year?
No. I mean, last year I even called my aunt. I was like, "Hey, do you need your taxes done again? I'll come to you and do them again." Because she, I did them for her, whatever. And I didn't need to do that at all this year. Like during that kind of that lower thing, I was a little bit nervous.
You're like, do I need to start cleaning houses for a living or like start a gardening job?
Right? Do I need to go get a job at the grocery store real quick? But no, that's where I really had to lean into the coaching that you provided and the training that's there and say, nope, it's going to be there. I'm not going to distract my efforts and energy with something else. I'm going to push through it and it'll be there. And it was tight. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it was there. And now where I am so far this month, I'm further ahead than I thought I would be. So yeah, it's super exciting.
I love that. Good. Congratulations on everything that you're creating. And I know that this is just still the beginning of what's possible for you. And it's going to be fun to catch up with you and see where you're at next year, at the end of next year, and how it's going. Cassandra, thank you so much for coming back and sharing your journey with us. You've shown what it looks like to grow in the middle, to believe before the proof is visible, to build systems before the schedule fills up, and to lead your business with calm and confidence. For everyone listening, I hope this episode reminds you that the quiet work you do now is what makes fully booked, substantial, and attainable later on. If you're ready to build belief in systems like Cassandra has, you can join the Foundations program anytime. You'll learn exactly how to set up your business, pricing, and mindset to get fully booked and stay there with ease. Visit themfrcoach.com/foundation to learn more and to grab your spot. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week on another episode of the MFR Coaches Podcast. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to the MFR Coaches Podcast. If you're ready to grow your myofascial release practice, make sure to sign up for my next free training. These live webinars are designed to help you take real steps towards building a fully booked, profitable business. You can save your seat and find the latest dates at themfrcoach.com/webinar. And if you're looking for more support, the Foundations program is now open year-round. Inside, you'll get coaching, tools, and community to help you get fully booked and stay that way without burning out. One last thing before you go. My brand new book, Your MFR Practice Starts Here, is now available. It's a must-read for any MFR therapist who wants to build a business that actually works. You can grab your copy on Amazon and get your companion guide by going to themfrcoach.com/book. Start implementing right away. I'll see you in the next episode.